Incredible single dad chef discovers surprising recipe that moved a billionaire mom to tears. The neon flickered to life outside James's diner, casting a warm glow that contrasted the chill of the evening air. Inside, the comforting aroma of garlic and herbs filled the cramped kitchen. But James felt the weight of his own heart, a blend of grief and determination. The worn-out chef jacket clung to him like a memory of everything he had lost since his wife passed away. Each meatloaf he crafted bore the imprint of sorrow threaded with love. Yet, doubts crept in like unwelcome guests. Was this enough for Lily? Would making ends meet in this modest diner really fulfill their needs, aspirations, and unspoken dreams? As his hands kneaded the meat mixture, he hesitated. The plate of meatloaf still sat untouched on the counter, an inauspicious offering of comfort. He recalled the taste of his grandmother's secret recipe, a culinary whisper from the past that had long faded into obscured memory. The world was changing, and here he was, running a diner as antiquated as the past. There was a competition on the horizon that stirred something deep within him, yet he couldn't shake the feeling that stepping into the spotlight might pull him away from everything that mattered most. He caught the shadow of himself in the reflection of the kitchen knife and felt a jolt of unease. Were the flickering visions of grandeur worth the risk of losing his connection with Lily? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The door swung open with a tinkling bell, rupturing the whirl of despair lingering in his thoughts. A disheveled figure entered the local food critic, with a weary aura that suggested she was no stranger to the struggles of everyday life. As James served her the famous meatloaf, he felt the pulse of every doubt. Could this dish still enchant anyone? Could it truly hold the essence of something bigger than just food? When she took that first bite, her unexpected tears hinted at something he had yet to comprehend. He could still connect, still create. But then it began. The unrelenting pressure from people clamoring for a taste of his legacy began to fracture his safe cocoon. Familiar faces of his regulars transformed into strangers, overwhelmed by the influx of new customers driven by reviews he never sought. How could he balance their eagerness, the weight of expectations, and his responsibility to be the rock for Lily? Yet another anxiety pricked his thoughts. Competition was looming, and a rival chef glinted in James's peripheral. Each day would draw him closer to that moment of judgment, where his culinary guts would be laid bare. He wasn't just cooking anymore. He was fighting the ghosts of what he could have been, caught between dreams of fame and the commitment to nurture the world he'd built with Lily. Would he dare to uncover those hidden recipes from his past? Or would he let this chance slip through his fingers like flour through a sifter, shrouded in both fear and longing? As he felt the incisive tension mounting, a betrayal from within the one place he found solace began to emerge, igniting a fresh wave of uncertainty. Would he stand tall when everything felt like it was slipping away? The clattering of dishes echoed the relentless turmoil within him. In his heart, a battle raged, propelling him toward the possibility of both triumph and loss as he stood at the precipice of everything he held dear. A chaotic rush of customers flooded James's diner, each new face both exhilarating and terrifying. The vibrant chatter filled the air, competing with the sizzling pans and clattering dishes, transforming his quaint establishment into something vibrant but overwhelming. James found himself caught in a whirlwind, an odd mix of nostalgia and ambition. This was exactly what he had wanted: a thriving business. Yet now, the reality felt like a fog, smothering his sense of purpose. He retreated to the kitchen, the heart of his world, seeking solace among the spices and herbs. The familiar scents should have brought comfort, but today they hung heavy around him, bringing the taste of uncertainty. Days blurred. When was the last time he truly sat down with Lily, shared a meal, or even discussed her day? The thought gnawed at him, tightening around his chest like a vice. He had to do better. He had to be better, With the orders piling up, he was forced back into action, moving with the rhythm of the bustling kitchen. Each chop of the knife felt deliberate, a small declaration amidst the chaos. This was what he excelled at: crafting flavors, pairing ingredients, igniting emotions through food. Yet, how could he channel his artistry into something that wouldn't consume him? There was a fine line between success and surrender, and he was beginning to feel the strain. James caught a glimpse of the critic's latest review pinned to the wall as he expertly flipped burgers on the grill. Her words hung heavily over his head, both a badge of honor and a curse. While she praised his meatloaf as a heartfelt homage to tradition, the pressure to replicate that moment loomed like a specter. Could he continue to be that chef who breathed life into memories, or would he crumble under expectations? Amidst all the noise, a more subtle presence drifted into his thoughts. Lily. What was her opinion? How did she feel about the changing dynamic of their lives? He leaned against the counter, wiping the sweat from his brow, mind racing. This was supposed to be for her. A better future, a chance to build their dreams. But what if that aspiration led him away from her instead? As he assembled an order of sandwiches, a stray thought pierced through him. Was he willing to chase celebrity status at the cost of his relationship with Lily? The admission sent a shiver down his spine. The competition looming ahead felt like a silver lining of dread, crystallizing all his fears. James couldn't shake the nagging question of whether he possessed the creativity needed to stand out in the culinary cosmos, or if he was destined to fizzle under the spotlight. The night carried on, and as the diner emptied, the adrenaline began to fade, revealing the exhaustion beneath. Customers had come and gone, yet one remained, stepping into the kitchen. It was Lily, her expression blending curiosity and concern. Her small frame filled the doorway, a stark reminder of why he labored so tirelessly. "Dad, you look stressed," she said gently. Her eyes, pools of understanding, searched his. In that moment, he felt the weight of a choice pressing down on him. Should he reveal his fears, the challenges ahead, and the growing distance he perceived between them? Or would he shroud it all in a veil of false bravado, allowing her to believe that everything was under control? Just then, the idea of reaching deep into his grandmother's culinary legacy, the whispers of her recipes, began to tease his thoughts. Could exploring that treasure trove of flavors not only reignite his passion but also bring him closer to Lily? The decision unfurled slowly like a flower blooming in spring. He would explore the depths of that untapped potential, but only if it meant strengthening the bonds with his daughter. As he glanced at Lily, hope tinged with fear washed over him. The time had come to confront his feelings about the competition, about success, but most importantly, about his bond with Lily. Would he have the courage to lean into that past, or would he retreat, spiraling deeper into isolation? He took a deep breath as the weight of these revelations began to settle in. It was time to navigate this new world with intention and authenticity. It was time to make his move. With Lily at his side, he couldn't help but wonder, what would it mean to truly embrace his grandmother's recipes and their powerful, emotional legacy? The journey was just beginning, and the stakes had never felt higher. James spent the next few days in a fever of activity as he pondered over his grandmother's recipes, committing them to memory and reinvigorating his spirit. Each page he turned revealed not just a dish but a flicker of his past, a moment shared at family gatherings. The warmth of his grandmother's laughter infused into every bite. The very thought filled him with a sense of purpose he had almost forgotten. He dedicated every free moment to experimentation, pushing himself to blend new ideas with those cherished recipes. It felt as if the air around him hummed with potential. Those ingredients were more than mere food. They were keys leading to emotional connections, roads paved in nostalgia and familial love. At the diner's lunch rush, he applied what he had distilled from his grandmother's wisdom. He introduced a special of the day, her signature chicken pot pie, transformed with an unexpected twist of rosemary and garlic. He watched the customers' reactions, feeling a tingle of excitement as patrons savored each bite. Conversations erupted across tables, sharing stories of their own homes and kitchens. It was encouragement, a visceral reminder of what food could do: bring people together, reignite memories, create bonds. In all this flurry, However, a growing fear settled in his chest. What if this new direction didn't resonate? What if he was sacrificing the steady progress he had made for a whimsy, temporary satisfaction? As the diners enjoyed their meals, James halted momentarily, overwhelmed by the thought of competing against the relentless tide of culinary trends. But then he glanced at Lily, sitting at the counter, doodling in her notebook, her expressions completely absorbed by the scenes of clamoring customers. She caught his eye and smiled, a reminder of what it had all been for. Her presence pushed him to confront his doubts. Could he trust that this journey through familial roots might be the bridge between their worlds? After the rush, he cleaned up the kitchen and informed Lily about his plans. "I want us to try and put together a family night here at the diner, cooking together, displaying some of Grandma's legacy," he said, his voice steady, even as it trembled with rising stakes. She beamed, her enthusiasm infectious. But even as excitement bubbled between them, James felt the ticking clock of impending competition loom closer. He knew the culinary world would scrutinize every moment of vulnerability he shared, every mistake if he faltered. Would the critics view his embrace of nostalgia as a desperate grasp for authenticity or a genuine rediscovery of oneself? That night, driven by both enthusiasm and fear, he immersed himself in research. He discovered stories behind traditional dishes, weaving narratives that would create deeper connections with the customers. He imagined families with children sitting across from one another, laughter reflecting in the diner's corners, their mouths full of his food. But would his work be enough to silence the critic that resided not just within the culinary world but within him? As James prepared to take the leap, strategy mixing with his emotional ties, he felt a strange stirring within him, a realization that perhaps vulnerability is where strength truly lies. If he could open his heart to the sentiments embedded within these recipes, the dish would undoubtedly come alive. The next evening, as he and Lily made their way home, the streets pulsing with dynamics, a new thought collided with his emotions of fear, looming like a specter. Was he willing to risk everything on this journey into the past? Would embracing his family's legacy lead to growth? Or would it inadvertently spin him into a tangle harder to navigate than the pressure of the competition? That night, he lay awake, staring at the ceiling, consumed by a single haunting question: what if stepping back allowed him to find not just himself, but a richer connection with the world around him? The paradox tightened within him, escalating toward decision time. And as dawn broke, illuminating a new day filled with possibilities, he was ready to confront not just the competition waiting ahead, but the ghosts of his past that guided him. The moment of truth was fast approaching, and as the light poured in, James felt the stirrings of his own courage take shape. Would it be enough? James woke to the soft, golden light filtering through his curtains, a watercolor canvas that promised possibilities. Today was the day he had envisioned, crafting a tapestry of flavors and memories in his diner that would bring both delight and discourse. He rolled out of bed with purpose, his mind racing between the delicious creations he had planned for their first family night. The kitchen called to him like sirens beckoning sailors toward uncharted waters. He arrived earlier than usual, determined to transform the space, imbuing it with the heart of his grandmother's kitchen. Wooden spoons, rolling pins, and bowls for mixing stood waiting on the counter like loyal soldiers to support his new endeavor. He began to pull out ingredients, each one securing a thread in the vibrant fabric of his family legacy. Fresh herbs, carrots, and chicken were soon spread out before him as the scents intertwined, lifting his spirits. His heart raced with anticipation and apprehension. This was no simple dinner service. This was an emotional battleground, an opportunity to lay bare his vulnerability, inviting others to join him in that vulnerability. He could almost hear his grandmother's laughter echoing in his mind, a reminder of the warmth that came with sharing food and stories, a warmth he desperately wanted to replicate. Lily arrived, her energy igniting a spark of inspiration. Together, they turned the diner into a festive space adorned with checkered tablecloths and playful decorations. James felt a surge of excitement, but beneath that, a gnawing uncertainty loomed. Would all this effort pay off? Would people connect with the meals they crafted? Or would they see them as mere novelty? They decided to start the event by sharing personal stories behind each dish. As he spoke about putting rosemary in the chicken pot pie, he felt the fear creeping back. Would he be able to express the depth of his emotions tied to each recipe? Was his history as significant as the culinary skill he displayed? With each passing hour, the diner buzzed with life. Families began to trickle in, and laughter replaced silence, mingling with the aroma of cooking. Yet, when the first couple of patrons started to anchor themselves at tables, James' nerves began to fray. He watched as they interacted, his heart sinking when he noticed some picking up their phones to snap pictures instead of diving into the food. But then, as if the universe sensed his turmoil, a mother and son took a seat near the window. Their shared smiles radiated joy, a stark contrast to the other diners. The boy, maybe 8 or 9, looked expectantly at the menu. It was as if they saw beyond the dishes and the aesthetic. There was a genuine engagement happening. James noticed their energy and felt inspired. He moved from behind the counter, offering samples of the pie, explaining its origins while drawing in small bits of his past, the laughter of his grandmother drifting from his words like aromatic steam from the pot pie's crust. To his surprise, the boy's eyes lit up, responding with enthusiasm as the flavors melted into his memory. "I want to make this with my mom," the boy declared, enthusiasm bubbling from him. His mother chuckled, wiping a tear from her eye, and whispers filled the air. A connection was formed. But just then, a shadow slipped over the diner door. Elise, a renowned food critic, entered. James had heard rumors her presence meant trouble. The familiar knot of apprehension twisted in his stomach as she surveyed the diner, her expression unreadable. The evening's joy was eclipsed by the weight of her judgment, every laugh now tinged with tension. The success of family night felt fragile. They weren't just cooking. They were daring to share their hearts, risking rejection from the culinary elite. James' resolve solidified as he forced himself to breathe through the fear. A confrontation awaited, a test of conviction, not just of culinary prowess. He had opened himself up in ways few dared. As the laughter and chatter rose in the diner, a decision crystallized within him. He would not retreat. He wouldn't yield to doubt. No matter the outcome of Elise's presence or the whispers of competition, he would be true to the dish and the emotion behind it. James turned back to the kitchen, feeling a flicker of determination reignite within. Today was about connection, and he was prepared to face whatever twist fate had in store. But as he prepared to serve the first round of dishes, the thought lingered: would Elise appreciate the gravity of the evening's offering? Or would she tear apart the very essence of what he was trying to convey? The stage was set, and the tension was palpable. It was time to share not just food, but a piece of his soul. As James stepped back into the kitchen, the bustle of the diner faded into a low hum, swallowed by the urgency of his thoughts. He moved methodically, plating the first dishes with a precision that belied his inner turmoil. Each plate was a canvas painted with care, a reflection of not just the food, but the moments enveloped in warmth and nostalgia. Yet, in the back of his mind, Elise's presence loomed like an ominous cloud, threatening to overshadow his most vulnerable offering. He recalled her reputation as a ruthless critic. She had a knack for skewering establishments with a single phrase, a talent to unravel any facade. The fear of being dissected turned his fingers restless, the elegant herbs trembling under his grip. He had prepared the meal with such heart, pouring memories into the gravy and dreams into the crust. Would she understand that? Would she see beyond the ingredients? Or would she only pen the harsh truths of what she deemed wrong? "James." Lily's voice broke through his thoughts, steady and encouraging. "They love it." She gestured toward the dining area, where patrons savored the dishes, laughter punctuating the air. A mother and her son shared smiles between bites, while another table erupted in spirited discussion over the flavors dancing on their tongues. The joy reaffirmed the purpose behind their labor. He turned to Lily, noting her excitement but also the confidence in her eyes. "I can't help but feel," he said slowly, "like this could all unravel with one critique." He leaned against the counter, the weight of doubt spilling out with every word. "What if she doesn't see it the way we do?" Lily's gaze softened, and she stepped closer, her voice low but firm. You've cooked with authenticity tonight, James. That's what matters. You don't control how people receive it. You can only control what you put out. And what you've put out is beautiful. Her words ignited a flicker of determination. She believed in him. But could he believe in himself? As patrons continued to engage, James took a deep breath and decided to walk to the dining area, a deliberate choice to face the judgment head-on. He emerged into the brightly lit floor and saw that the mood remained jovial. He approached the mother and son, their plates nearly cleared, radiant smiles on their faces. "How was the pot pie?" he asked, his tone light but nervous. "It was amazing," the boy exclaimed, nearly bouncing in his seat. "Mom, can we make this on our next pizza night?" The mother nodded, her smile reaching her eyes, a genuine appreciation shining through. "It's the best comfort food I've had in years. The rosemary makes it unique. Your grandmother must have cooked with love," she added, her voice thick with emotion. His heart swelled. This connection, the genuine enthusiasm of his customers, made him realize the importance of sharing flavors and memories. For a moment, he thought about Elise in the back of his mind, and the fear dulled. "Thank you," he replied with sincerity. "That means everything to me." He was stepping away when Elise's voice cut through the cheerful atmosphere like a knife. "James." He turned, forcing a calm exterior but feeling the adrenaline spike. She stood at the entrance of the kitchen, skeptical eyes scanning the lively scene. James braced himself, the weight of her judgment pressing down, but curiosity mixed with resolve bubbled up within him. "Let us talk," she said dismissively, an unexpected invitation beneath the stern words. The moment triggered an avalanche of uncertainty. This wasn't just a conversation about food. It was an exploration of everything he had poured into tonight's dishes. A confrontation that could either validate his identity or unravel everything he strove to achieve. James nodded, steeling himself for the word battle that awaited. Today had already stripped him bare. Now he would need to defend not just the meal, but the very essence of who he was as a chef and a man. With every step toward her, he questioned whether he would have it in him to stand firm against the scrutiny that awaited him. The stakes were higher than he had imagined, and there was not just meal satisfaction at risk, but his very essence hanging in the balance. The confrontation was imminent, and nothing could prepare him for what lay ahead. Would he emerge unscathed, or would this critique shatter the connection he'd worked so hard to build? The moment James reached Elise, he felt the weight of her gaze more keenly than before. It was as if she were sifting through him, her critical lens sweeping across his demeanor, searching for cracks. He could almost hear the gears of her mind turning, her pen poised to capture not just his food, but the very spirit he had poured into it. "Your food," she began, voice cool. "It has a certain charm, but charm doesn't always translate to substance. What do you want your cooking to say?" Her question struck deep, echoing in the quiet recesses of his mind. The air between them felt thick with unspoken tension. He had always believed his food conveyed emotion, spoke of heritage and stories. Now, faced with her sharp scrutiny, those ideals felt flimsy. "I want it to reflect love, tradition," he replied, forcing each word to remain steady despite rising doubt. "It's about comfort, about sharing something that makes people feel at home." She regarded him for a moment that felt eternal. "Home? You think that's enough?" A multitude of thoughts raced through him. Was it enough? The harmonious blend of ingredients, the meticulous execution, the heart of his family? As he contemplated, he recognized a pivotal realization stirring within his cooking was more than just food. It held the essence of who he was. But was it enough for someone like Elise? "I believe in it," he said, building on a newfound resolve. "Every dish tells a story, even if it's not always perfect." "Can't be perfect. That's life." Elise's brow furrowed slightly. A flicker of interest crossed her features, a crack in her stoic facade. "But a critic sees beyond sentimentality. You need to consider that, James. Are you building a culinary identity for your customers, or creating an emotional crutch for yourself?" Her words cut, and he felt the sting of a hard truth. Perhaps he had clung too tightly to the nostalgia, the comfort of memories he served rather than pushing himself to innovate, to grow. I want my dishes to resonate with others, yes, he admitted, drawing in a like need for growth that ignited within him. But I can also carve my path without losing what matters. Isn't that the challenge of a chef? Elise pursed her lips, an undeniable softness creeping into her expression. A good chef adapts. You've done well tonight, but you're standing at a precipice. Embrace that discomfort. Your food might sing louder if you let it evolve. He felt their conversation shifting, lifting off the straightforward critique and into something deeper. A revelation hung in the air. Perhaps this moment was not just an assessment, but an invitation to forge a new identity. Are you saying I should take risks? He met her gaze, searching for clarity. Absolutely. Be willing to challenge the expected. Not just in your food, but in your approach. Experiment and own the choices you make. Only then can you truly define yourself. Her words, from the hardened critic he feared, became a spark of inspiration. Something in him shifted. He recognized that stepping outside his comfort zone could lead to deeper connections with his guests and, ultimately, to himself. As he moved to thank her, another breach of the lively chatter drew his attention. Numerous patrons were departing, smiles replaced by fading warmth. Each exit tugged at his heart. Remember, Elise added, her voice momentarily softer, you may receive harsh criticism. Don't shy away from it. It's part of the journey. As she turned to leave, the weight of her critique swirled within him, but now it no longer felt like a burden to bear. The conversation illuminated a path of growth that he had yet to fully explore. With renewed determination, he turned back toward the kitchen. Tomorrow would bring new opportunities, a chance to harness his newfound insights. Cooking was about authenticity, but as Elise had pointed out, it also meant evolution, the courage to step boldly into the unknown. He could no longer fear criticism but must take it as vital feedback. His heart raced with possibilities as he brushed past the ill-fated moments of that evening, the undercurrents of self-doubt fading. But as he prepped for the next day, the questions lingered. Would he be able to meet the challenge head-on? The growth that awaited was daunting, yet exhilarating. With each choice, he knew he was on the brink of something, not just a culinary breakthrough, but a personal one, too. Tomorrow, he resolved to embrace the risk and redefine what it meant to be a chef. And with that thought, James grinned. The moment of discovery was dawning, but what other challenges awaited him with each knife he sharpened? The morning sun streamed through the kitchen windows, illuminating a space brimming with possibilities. James stood amidst the bustle, his heart racing with both excitement and trepidation. Today marked a turning point not just for his cooking, but for his burgeoning identity as a chef. As he gathered his ingredients, he could still hear Elisa's voice echoing in his mind. Challenges awaited, but so did the potential for remarkable growth. He glanced at the fresh herbs before him. The basil, fragrant and lively, called to him for creativity. Perhaps he could take a new direction by flipping traditional recipes on their heads. Instead of merely replicating the dishes of his past, he could incorporate unexpected elements that spoke more authentically to who he was becoming. With that thought, James set to work, imagining the kind of dish that might bridge his heritage with a modern flair. He began with a classic comfort food, macaroni and cheese, an old family recipe that had always resonated with the concept of home. But what if he elevated the familiar with an unexpected ingredient? As flames licked his sauté pan, he decided to infuse the cheese with smoked paprika and a hint of truffle oil, drawing inspiration from the flavors he had recently explored. He moved with purpose, the rhythm of slicing and stirring igniting a flame of excitement within him. This was it, the perfect blend of nostalgia and evolution. With each step, he pondered Elise's challenge. Was he ready to embrace feedback, whether harsh or complimentary? His commitment ignited a stronger desire to express pieces of himself through the dishes he created. Today, I challenge the norm, he murmured, as he whisked together his bechamel sauce, layering on the flavors and daring to be bold. As the preparation continued, James organized the kitchen, cultivating a focused atmosphere. But behind it all, a nagging doubt bubbled up. Was this enough? Would his patrons embrace this new iteration, or would it be met with criticism? He looked at his new creations, each one a reflection of his growth, a burgeoning culinary identity taking shape in real time. The lunch rush began, and the kitchen buzzed with activity. James shouted orders, his voice steady, though internally, his heart thumped loud enough to drown out the clattering utensils. He absorbed both the chaos of service and the serene moments in between, when he could reflect on who he was becoming as the first plates left the kitchen. James placed them with a hint of trepidation before the customers. He observed them with laser focus, noting their expressions, waiting for the first reaction. A woman with a glimmer of recognition in her eyes took a bite, pausing at the unexpected depth of flavor. Her brows rose as she savored the complexity of the dish, an involuntary smile breaking across her face. "Incredible!" she exclaimed, signaling to the waiter for another round. A wave of relief washed over James. This response ignited a rush of momentum feedback like this fueled his desire for innovation. Yet, as praise filtered through the kitchen, a shadow of fear settled in the corner of his mind. He could not help but wonder whether one success would lead him down a path of complacency. Could he risk the comfort of accolades to explore the unknown again? Or would seeking new frontiers alienate his loyal patrons? With the lunch rush slowly trailing off, a familiar figure entered the restaurant. Elise, her eyes as sharp and critical as ever. But today they held a flicker of curiosity. As she surveyed the bustling kitchen, James felt a tightening in his chest. Would she see the evolution in his dishes, or would she find fault in his risks? He steeled himself, knowing this moment could either reinforce his resolve or push him back into insecurity. Determined to confront whatever critique awaited him, James locked eyes with her as she approached the pass. The time had come to face the truth behind his transformative journey, a truth he sensed she would both dissect and challenge. Would this moment catapult him further into the unknown, or would apprehension bind him to the familiar comforts he had always known? The air was thick with potential, poised on the brink of revelation. The transformation was only just beginning. James steadied his breath as Elise approached, an air of expectation crackling between them. Her expression was inscrutable, a blend of skepticism and intrigue. He braced himself, aware that her assessment of his culinary evolution could either solidify his newfound confidence or unravel the threads of progress he had woven since stepping into this kitchen. Elise leaned closer, observing the plates adorned with his creations. "You took a risk, didn't you?" she finally said, her voice steady but laced with a hint of surprise. "Yeah," he admitted, his heart racing. "I wanted to take something familiar and turn it into something new." A flicker of approval danced in her eyes, but before he could ride the wave of relief, she pierced the moment with precision. "Balancing nostalgia with innovation is tricky. You know that, right? You can't cater to everyone's palate. What if they don't want change?" Her words hit like a fist, an undeniable truth wrapped in a challenge. Could he truly expect his patrons to embrace the layers of complexity he had worked so hard to create? The scrutiny of the past clashed with the ambitions of his present. "I get it," he said, swallowing hard. "But I want to grow if I only stick to the safe options. I want to push boundaries." Elise regarded him thoughtfully, as if trying to assess the very essence of his determination. "And what about the feedback? Are you ready to hear not just praise, but also criticism?" He searched her gaze, then nodded. The weight of her question hung like a blade over him, sharp and unyielding. He was prepared to embrace it, but would he actually be able to sift through the noise? As she continued to analyze the flavors and textures of his dish, he realized that her eyes, so critical yet so insightful, could cut through the uncertainty lying deep within. Each examination felt like a veritable test of his resolve, compelling him to confront not just his cooking, but his worth as a chef. "Your seasoning is on point," she said slowly, a hint of a smile breaking her stern facade. "But remember, culinary identity is not just what you create. It's also how you respond to the taste of your audience." Her words struck a chord within him, inviting a deeper reflection on the duality of creation and reception. The lines between artist and audience folded together like layers of flavor on his plate, and he began to form a new vision. What if, instead of seeing feedback as judgment, he embraced it as a conversation? James watched as patrons left comments reflecting their own experiences of the dish. Reading their thoughts, he began to understand not just the essence of culinary appreciation but also more profound connections to his cooking. Memories, emotions, desires, they all melded together within the shared act of dining. Determination surged through him as he recognized another layer of his growth: the ability to adapt. He would allow the conversations emerging from his creations to refine his style without losing the essence of himself. This newfound awareness opened a door in his mind, a route toward a spectrum of culinary exploration that transcended traditional boundaries. The next week darted by amid a flurry of service and feedback. Guest comments poured in, revealing a tapestry of reactions: enthusiastic, indifferent, critical, all of which felt like vital insights into his development. He found himself invigorated by the dialogue and challenged to rethink his approach, now seeing collaboration with his patrons as an integral aspect of his artistry. Then came the evening when the unexpected happened. A woman, radiant with warmth, approached him after her meal. "Your macaroni and cheese brought back cherished memories from my childhood," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "It made me weep. Thank you." James felt a rush, a thrill that lit him from within. He had exceeded mere satisfaction. He had connected soul to soul. It was more than validation. It was a call to elevate further, to dig deep into his roots while propelling forward with intent. Yet, even amidst the elation, a sliver of fear crept back. Had he merely struck a chord with one patron, or had he just opened Pandora's box of emotional resonance? Could he keep forging those connections without marginalizing those who preferred the familiar? As he pondered these new questions, he realized he now stood at a crossroads, not unlike a dish waiting for the last crucial garnish. With each success, he felt an unseen weight, a responsibility not just to serve but to cultivate lasting experiences through his cuisine. That in the shimmer of newfound possibilities lay the next challenge: how to balance his artistic voice while honoring the responses of those who dined with him. Could he meld his innovation seamlessly with audience expectations without losing his own uniqueness? The kitchen was a cauldron of potential, bubbling away, ready to bring forth something extraordinary. And in this burgeoning era of his culinary journey, what awaited him next could very well redefine everything he thought he knew. Would he dare to take the leap once more? The kitchen buzzed with the evening's rush, a symphony of clanging pots and sizzling pans. James found himself in the eye of the storm, acutely aware of the pressures mounting to deliver not just food, but experiences. The thrill of innovation intertwined with the ever-present anxiety of public perception. Each dish a gamble that might either elicit joy or disappointment. As his hands worked deftly through a new recipe he decrafted, his mind wandered back to the woman's heartfelt response. Memories of her tears clung to him like the rich sizzle of garlic in a hot pan. Her connection felt profound, and yet, his pursuit of that magical moment frightened him. The balance between nostalgia and culinary creativity wasn't merely a trend. It was a promise he had made to himself, to honor the past while forging new paths. He wiped his brow and assessed the crowded dining room, noting the myriad faces, each one a potential mirror reflecting his artistic choices. Should he risk straying too far from what people found comforting? Or was it in that very risk that he would find his true culinary voice? These questions rattled through his mind like an unsteady simmer, and he realized the fear had begun to suffocate him. The vibrant colors of his plates seemed duller as he tried to decide on his next dish. Most chefs thrived in chaos, but he found clarity in the calm before an artistic decision. Taking a step back, he exhaled deeply, letting the ambient sounds of clinking glasses and laughter stir inspiration within him. He appealed to the crowd, offering tastings of new variations on comfort classics. Each dish he envisioned contained familiar touches, yet they were laced with unexpected nuances: an herb-infused bechamel here, a hint of truffle oil there. The pull was to entice memories while sidestepping risk of alienation. Would they embrace these deviations? With determination, he hunched over his notes during quiet moments. Ideas throbbed within him, entwined with a desire to not just create dishes, but engage in meaningful dialogues with those who consumed them. Rather than relegating his voice to the whispers of criticism, he resolved to command the attention of his diners, to lead them through a narrative crafted in flavors and textures that evoked both wonder and familiarity. The kitchen was his canvas, and each dish became a brushstroke. He was shaping a larger picture, a new narrative that interplayed nostalgia with innovative freedom. Yet, as he experimented, the looming specter of feedback nagged at him. Would his most critical recipes be met with skepticism? The turning point came that Saturday evening when a couple exited the dining area, their sobriety contrasting sharply with the revelry around them. James felt their gaze upon him, the scrutiny intense. As they approached, he readied himself for compliments or critiques. The weight of anticipation made his pulse quicken. "Your twist on spaghetti and meatballs was exquisite," the woman said, her eyes shimmering like the sauce he had crafted. "But how could you elevate the dish further?" The question felt like an unexpected invitation but also a test. Instead of crumbling under the weight of expectation, he contemplated her words. She wasn't just validating. She was engaging. James' heart raced. Could he delve deeper into this exchange? Could he continue refining his approach, not just through his art but also by cultivating a more profound relationship with his patrons? He leaned in, intrigued. "What would you suggest? What memories does it evoke for you?" As the conversation flowed, he felt a surge of clarity. This was not merely about pleasing individuals or evoking nostalgia. It was a chance for collective growth in the kitchen and beyond. Each interaction became a stepping stone toward something transformative. Yet, a nagging thought whispered in his mind. Had he opened himself too wide, exposing vulnerability where he should have maintained professional distance? He felt the forks of doubt and opportunity intertwining, a messy convergence of professional growth tinged with apprehension. The kitchen fires blazed in the background, but the atmosphere crackled with renewed tension. Once again, the stakes had risen. Each dish and each conversation held the potential to propel him toward greatness or pull him into obscurity. As he navigated this thrilling transformation, one thing remained certain. The journey was only beginning. The question lingered. Would he fully embrace this emerging dynamic, or would fear of failure stifle his ascent? In the simmering heat of this culinary crucible, one thing was clear. What lay ahead might unravel the very fabric of his artistic vision. A challenge loomed on the horizon. Where would it lead him next? The neon glow of James's diner dimmed slightly as the dinner rush came to an end. Yet within him, a new light began to shine. The triumphs of the evening echoed in his mind. Smiles from patrons, laughter over shared plates, and most importantly, the excitement of engaged conversations about food felt invigorating. The risks he had taken were paying off. People were not merely satisfied. They were connecting with the very essence of his cooking. However, the weight of uncertainty lingered, an ever-present companion. Would he be able to consistently merge comfort-fueled nostalgia with innovative risk-taking in a way that resonated with his audience? He had taken the bold step of breaking from tradition, but as he had learned through the pivotal moments with Elise and the engaged diners, the delicate balance was key. He needed to cultivate his culinary identity further, without losing the heart-rooted memories that his cooking represented. One fateful afternoon, he decided to gather feedback directly. He announced a new initiative, the Dish of the Month, where diners could propose ideas or ingredients that he would transform into a dish, intertwining their memories and his culinary skills. This method breathed new life into the diner and connected him seamlessly with his customers, fostering not just transactions, but relationships. As he stood behind the counter, awaiting the first proposal, an elderly gentleman approached. "I want you to make something that reminds us of Sunday family dinners, something with roast chicken," he said, his eyes glistening with reminiscence. Without hesitation, James jotted down notes, determination coursing through him. He envisioned a crispy, herb-stuffed roast chicken with sides that echoed warmth and togetherness. The following week, the special was unveiled. The aroma wafted through the diner, rekindling not just appetite, but vivid memories shared and cherished. Diners reminisced, shared laughter and stories, and with each plate served, James felt validated. The connection he longed to achieve was now blossoming, his culinary artistry breathing life into their shared narratives. The local food critic, intrigued by whispers of James's resurgence, returned for this special. Should he fear judgment or embrace the scrutiny as a necessary part of his evolution? Instead of shying away, he placed his heart into every plate, confident that authenticity would resonate more than tradition alone. As her fork touched the tender meat, Elise paused, her brows furrowing in concentration. The bustling diner held its breath, and for a moment, time stood still. Then, a smile broke across her face. "You've matured, James. This is you. You're not just serving dishes, you're crafting experiences." In that moment, the world around him faded. Recognition from someone who had once loomed as a symbol of judgment now felt like a badge of honor. He had not only satisfied the palate of diners but had also, through constant evolution, proved his competence as a serious chef. The bustling hum of the diner transformed into a celebratory symphony. James now understood. Vulnerability wasn't just about risk. It was also about connection. He had conquered his fears of inadequacy through growth, learning that each critique held value. He emerged from self-doubt, realizing that even his mistakes served to guide him, creating a tapestry of experiences that solidified his identity in the culinary world. With an established reputation for crafting dishes that resonated deeply with both nostalgia and modern creativity, James made ambitious plans for a community cookbook featuring recipes inspired by the diner's patrons. As he compiled these heartwarming stories next to each dish, he felt a sense of fulfillment wash over him. James's journey had culminated in the realization that personal fulfillment lay not in chasing after notoriety, but in nurturing connections, both past and present. The diner transformed into a sacred space that celebrated family legacies while embracing the evolution of culinary art. Today, James stood confidently behind the counter, no longer merely a chef, but a storyteller weaving tales through flavors. This was his legacy, crafted through perseverance, vulnerability, and love. He had not just achieved recognition. He had solidified a profound connection with food, a connection that would not only influence the diner, but likely weave its way into the hearts of many others in his town. As he looked out into the bustling diner, warmth filled his chest. He smiled, well aware now that the journey of a chef is infinite, one that continuously unfolds. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show your support. Comment your reactions and theories about this conclusion below. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformative story. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share.